yeah, if I'm Paul George, I'm definitely not going to any other team outside of Houston right now. Absolutely, I'm looking at Houston. You look at the Western Conference. The Western Conference is not what we just lost another team in the West that potentially at full strength could compete for a championship. You just lost the Clippers. They're done. That ship has sailed. You can put Patrick Beverley at point, but you talking about building a team around Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, that's dead. DeAndre can't even get a shot without Chris Paul. Everything that he got, his whole career, pretty much been based on live passes from Chris Paul. And CP3 is gone. He's a Houston Rocket now. For those who've been away from their computers or phones today, Chris Paul has been traded to the Houston Rockets. If I'm Paul George, I'm trying to force my way to Houston, not the Lakers. You see, I'm a Lakers guy. I never understood why Paul George would want to go to the Lakers. I think that he wants to be a Laker. He got roots in California. I get that. But the Lakers are in a rebuild mode. Regardless, with Brandon Ingram, it's going to take time. With Lonzo Ball, it's going to take time. And Lonzo, I believe, is going to be special. An all-time Laker great, I believe, is going to happen for him if he stays in Los Angeles for the duration of his career. But it's going to take time. Paul George is at that age where he should be wanting to win championships now. Win now. If I'm Paul George, I'm either going to Boston, who could compete in the Eastern Conference with less competition, and I'm really looking at Houston now. Now that they got Chris Paul, I think I'll put Houston over Boston. Chris Paul can get you the ball whenever you need it. James Harden can get you the ball whenever you need it. You guys going to put up a lot of points in the regular season. The good thing about Chris Paul is he like a couple games off. Let Chris Paul have a couple games off. That way James Harden can still run point from time to time. Paul George still gets his averages. These brothers have been playing individually and working their bodies the last few years. Now they're getting with each other. And they all could take a seat back and kind of coast until the playoffs. Because this is going to be a lot of games that the Houston Rockets are going to win just because they're going to light it up from the perimeter. Chris Paul is an upgrade over Patrick Beverley in Houston's system because he likes to shoot and pass the basketball. In Houston with Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon, they shoot with the best of them. I know you lose Lou Williams, but you still got Chris Paul, James Harden. There's going to be some nights that teams are just not going to have what it takes to beat Houston, period. It happened last year. You know it's going to happen with Chris Paul. If I'm Paul George, I'm like, sheesh, I could be the defensive component that really puts this team over the top. I think he ought to be thinking about Houston, man. You put Chris Paul, James Harden, and Paul George together, because this is what it's all about, right? It's about guarding Golden State. And I've said that every NBA team has failed at the one thing with Golden State. Over the last 3 years, not one team, go do your history, not one team in the playoffs has made Steph Curry defend. Every year, Steph Curry is able to either guard a point guard who lacks the talent, or he's able to go, this is what usually happens, he'll go to the shooting guard. And every shooting guard in the league has become somebody who just spots up and shoots now in the corners. They have no impact on the game. Steph can guard shooters who don't attack the basket. The Houston Rockets have filled one need. With Chris Paul and James Harden in the backcourt, Steph's got to defend. You see, the problem with the problem with Chris Paul, when he was playing the Warriors, when he was in LA, he was getting crossed by Steph on defense. And he'd want to get Steph back when he's on offense. But hell, Klay Thompson is guarding him, and Klay's 6'7". So he was getting crossed, and he was like, I don't even get a chance to get back at him because y'all putting Klay Thompson on me. Now you got a backcourt. Klay's got to defend James. Steph's going to have to defend Chris Paul. Period. Steph got to defend now. Maybe you can put Steph on Trevor Ariza if you're the Warriors. But if you go get Paul George and you put him in that starting lineup, ooh-wee. You can't put Steph on Paul George. So now the Houston Rockets, and shout out to GM Daryl Morey because he's taking risk. They're trying to make some things happen. And I think adding Paul George to that, man, I think it'll be special. Now let me make this clear. That can't happen to me. Paul George to the Rockets, I don't know how they're going. I'm not sleep on Daryl Morey because I wouldn't have said Chris Paul to the Rockets can happen. But the Rockets don't have the requisite pieces to get a Paul George. You got to make the trade with the Pacers still. You can try getting him next year in free agency, but if this thing gets to free agency with Paul George, you got to believe he's going to the Lakers. He wants to be a Laker. But if you can find a way to get Denver involved, who's told you that they're willing to give up a Emmanuel Mudiay or maybe a Gary Harris or maybe a Kenneth Faried in that 3-team trade, and you find a way to give the Pacers a couple pieces that they would like and find a player that Denver's going to like, which will be tough, maybe you can get the Pacers to bulge on Paul George right now. Or if you're Chris Paul and James Harden, you get on the phone to Paul George and you tell him to tell the Pacers, look, you can trade me to any other team you want to in the league. I don't have a no trade clause, but look, Pacers, I will only sign an extension with the Houston Rockets. And that doesn't mean you have to go sign the extension. He could just tell them that. Hey, I'm not going to any other team but Houston. Now, the Pacers can try to trade him to any team they want. But if he gets out there in the atmosphere that Paul George would only sign an extension in Houston, teams will back for trading for him. Cleveland will back. They won't want to trade for him. Possibly. Boston probably is not going to want to trade for him. So, this Paul George thing is going to get very interesting. Reportedly, Houston has a plan to get Paul George. So, we're being told. I don't think it'll work financially. I don't think if they don't have enough picks, they don't have enough of anything. Just traded a lot of their assets away to the Clippers, obviously, to get Chris Paul. I don't think this thing will work, but it's worth noting that Chris Paul did not sign an extension with the Rockets. This is not a sign and trade. The Clippers just traded him, and Chris Paul opted in. I reported on something that didn't happen earlier. Chris Paul did not sign a new deal with the Clippers and then get traded. He's opting into his last year, and he will be a free agent next year. So, Paul George to the Rockets for a year to try it out. If you don't like it, you and Chris Paul are free agents. You can go from there. Paul George to Houston is interesting. I think he's better than getting Carmelo Anthony, because you get somebody who can defend, a LeBron or a Kevin Durant. But it's unlikely to me. Unlikely that the Houston Rockets got something in their back pocket and find a way to figure this out, because you just don't have enough pieces. If the Pacers didn't want Kevin Love, they're definitely not taking Ryan Anderson. If the I heard Eric Gordon had made a call with James Harden as well to get Chris Paul to Houston. That would mean that the Houston Rockets are not going to trade Eric Gordon. He'll be their Andre Iguodala, right? You don't got enough pieces to trade. Who you going to trade? Clint Capella? He's better than Kevin Love? Some of the other offers y'all got on the table? I don't know if Paul George ends up in Houston. I still believe in my heart of hearts he ends up in Boston. Just my opinion, but Paul George to Houston is very interesting, and I'm not going to lie, they can compete. You get Paul George, we can talk about a team that can compete with the Golden State Warriors. Subscribe to my channel. Talk to me. What you think about Paul George to Houston? Apparently it's in the works. We'll see. Just a rumor. I'm out. If you're looking to book me for an interview video or by phone, if you're looking to have your music or your skill featured on my daily podcast, if you're looking to book me for a speaking engagement to help motivate some kids, if you're looking to have me rock some of your clothing to help promote your brand, make sure you hit me up at booking@itsmrtaliaferro.com. Again, that's booking@itsmrtaliaferro.com.